Okay, right on. Today I want to share with you a question that has fundamentally changed my life. All right, and I don't say that lightly. But I honestly believe that one of the best habits that you can develop is the habit of asking yourself questions. Okay, and the reason I say that is because your mind operates exactly like a supercomputer. Okay, and the thing with the supercomputer is, or the thing with your mind, is that it can only give you the answer to questions that you ask of it. Okay, but the challenge is that most people don't ask themselves questions. Most people provide statements to themselves. What kind of statements? Well, typically they're not very empowering ones. Typically there are statements like, well, I don't know how to do that, or I can't afford that, or this is hard, or I'm not good at that, or whatever it is. Okay, but they say that the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of the questions that you ask, and that's true. And the reason that's true is because when you start asking better quality questions, you get better quality answers. And with better quality answers, you start getting better quality results. Okay? And so I'll say that again, that one of the best habits that you can develop is the habit of asking yourself questions. All right? And one of the most powerful questions that has ever been asked of me is one that I'm going to share with you today. Okay? And in order to illustrate this, I'm actually going to go back and share a short story here. But a number of years ago, when I was first getting into the online personal development world, I had a couple clients at the time who were, great clients, great people, but pretty, laid back, pretty casual, pretty easygoing. And every once in a while, I had this one client who would show up in either a ball cap or like a muscle shirt, like a cut-off sleeveless shirt. Okay, and I'll tell you, there were some days where I kind of mirrored that, in the sense that I would take my cues from them, and I would show up on our calls in a muscle shirt too. Okay, and they were, like I said, pretty easygoing, and they never mentioned it, never said anything, and that's just kind of how I operated at the time. Okay, but I remember having a conversation with my coach at the time, and at that point, my goal was to become an online coach who was successfully earning 15 grand a month. Okay, and at the time, that seemed like an astronomical goal to me. All right, and he had me do a little exercise, and he asked me to close my eyes and use my mind and my imagination and ask myself a question. And the question that he asked me was, who's the man that's successfully achieving your goal right now? Okay, and right away, the very first thing that came to mind is, well, he's sure as shit not wearing a muscle shirt on his coaching calls. And I asked him to pause for just a quick second, and I turned off my camera and I went into the closet that I had, and I grabbed a blazer. Okay, I put on a jacket, and I came back, and I turned the camera back on, and he said, "Wow," he said, "that's better." And he said, "What else? What else is going on here?" And I thought, okay, well, he's probably put together a little bit, in the sense that he's taken the time to maybe kind of do his hair. Okay, he looks presentable, he looks professional, and sometimes I'd be kind of rushing to hop on a call, and I'd just throw on like a newsboy hat. I wear that from time to time, and it's not a backwards snapback or anything, but I mean, it could probably be a lot more professional. And so I decided then and there that I no longer wear that on calls. Okay, he said, "Okay, great. Well, what else?" And I said, "Okay, well, he probably has a new computer." All right, and at the time I was using my old computer that I had had since college, And the truth is that it was kind of slow and it glitched, and sometimes actually the lag was so bad or the delay was so bad that I'd actually just have to call a client because my Zoom wasn't working. All right, so I said, well, he probably has a new computer. He said, okay, you're on a roll, keep going. And I said, all right, so who's the man that successfully achieved my goal? Well, he probably has the paid subscription to Zoom. All right, and at the time I was just using like the free version, and I think it cut you off after like 40 minutes or something like that. So I try to wrap up my calls in like 40 minutes, and so I wrote that down. I wrote down, okay, paid subscription to Zoom, and I thought, well, you know, he probably also has some form of like you know, a contract or some way of completing a document like that virtually online. And at the time, I was just going off a spit and a handshake, you know, and taking people on their word. And it worked to a certain extent. Like, I never had any issues with people, you know, not following through on our arrangements. But I figured that the man who's accomplishing my goal, who's like a successful online coach, is a little bit more formal, all right, that has some documents and a contract in place, all right. And you know, what else? And I started thinking about, okay, well, he's probably a little bit more prepared and organized for his calls, and he's keeping his notes kind of all in one place, all right. And I started to make a list of all of the things that I could think of that related to like the person in my mind who was successfully accomplishing that goal, all right. Now here's the thing. I justified that to myself by saying things like, well, I'll invest in a new computer when I start to get more clients, you know, or I'll get the paid subscription to Zoom or DocuSign once I start to build my business a little bit more. Okay, that was where my mind was at. That was my thinking. That was my thought process behind that. But I'll tell you, man, this line from Earl Nightingale jumps out at me, and he says, that's like the man who stands in front of a stove and says to it, give me heat and then I'll give you the wood. Okay? And it doesn't work that way. In fact, it's backwards, you know? And this whole universe is governed by what's called universal law. Okay? And universal law number one is the law of cause and effect. And the law of cause and effect states that for every action, there's a reaction. And if you want a different outcome, you've got to start taking different actions. And most people have this backwards. And most people have this backwards in the sense that they're waiting for an outcome or they're waiting for the effect before they start to show up in a specific way. All right? And what I want to challenge you to do or encourage you to do is to be the cause that produces the effect rather than waiting around for something to change around you. All right? Be the cause and take that action to create the effect. Right? So, right now, this is you, okay? And you're operating on a specific level. Okay? You've got a pattern of thought, a pattern of feeling, and a pattern of behavior, okay, also known as habits. And based on your pattern of thinking and your pattern of behavior, it's producing a specific result in your life. Okay? Now, if you've set a goal for yourself, right, and you've set a goal for yourself, chances are that that person is thinking different thoughts, feeling different emotions, and taking different actions, right? Like, chances are there are probably things that this person is doing that this person is not, or there are things that this person is doing that this person is not. Am I right? Okay. Well, here's the thing. The chances are that you already know some things that you could be doing, or maybe even should be doing, or maybe there are some things that you know that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be doing, okay, in order to achieve your goal. And the first step in this process is to create that awareness and identify what those things are, all right? And then to begin to start to close the gap between what you're thinking and how you're showing up and how you're behaving and some of those actions and the person who's achieving your goal, okay? So the first step always starts with an awareness in identifying what are some of those things. And then the next step is to start to demand that you begin to show up as that version of you, that you begin to show up as that person, okay? And here's the thing, is that it starts with an intention, okay? It starts with an intention. And over time, what happens is that intention becomes a behavior that's displayed, okay? And if you repeat that behavior often enough and frequently enough, eventually that behavior starts to become a habit, all right? And then over time, if you are consistent with that habit or you persist in that habit long enough, eventually it just becomes part of who you are, okay? And at first, that won't always be easy, okay? And it's likely to feel a little bit uncomfortable, like it's not going to come naturally, all right? And I remember the first few times that I put on a collared shirt and like showed up on a call, it felt weird. It felt like I was kind of like playing make-believe or like dress up a little bit, all right? It was new to me. It was kind of foreign, and it felt a little bit uncomfortable, okay? But now, that's just the standard. All right, and it would be very unusual to me to show up on a call, you know, wearing a t-shirt or a cut-off shirt. Like, I remember very distinctly on that call with my coach, I vowed that I was never going to show up on a call unprepared, unorganized, or not put together ever again. All right, and that has to do with standards. Okay, that has to do with what you're willing to tolerate from yourself, all right? And there's a saying in the personal development world that says that it goes be, do, have. Be, do, have. And I want to explain that for a minute here, okay? There's actually a quote by Mike Tyson that I really like. And I actually had the opportunity to meet Mike Tyson. This picture was taken in Toronto, and that's my dad and I. We had an opportunity to fly to Toronto to go and see Mike Tyson speak. And afterwards, we got to meet him. I got to shake hands with him. And I'll tell you, man, that guy's got like a fist and a hand the size of a bear paw. You know, he's not very tall in stature, but the energy of that man is, you know, it's something else. But anyway, Mike Tyson is actually a very intelligent person, okay? And, I mean, he's made some poor decisions in the past and that sort of thing, but he's actually a really smart guy. And he studied philosophy and some of the great warriors and legends from the past, okay? And that was with the help of his coach, Cus D'Amato. And, he's a warrior, but he's also a philosopher. And there's a line that Mike Tyson shared that is just brilliant. And on the surface it seems simple, but there's some real truth to the statement. And what Mike Tyson said was that everybody wants to be the champ. Okay, everybody wants to hold the belt, but nobody wants to train like the champ. And, in a lot of cases that's true. Everybody wants the reward, but nobody wants to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody wants to put in the reps like the champ does. Nobody wants to eat like the champ. Nobody wants to train like the champ. They just want the outcome. They just want the reward, Ryan Fish, he's a CrossFit competitor turned trainer, he's got a line too that says, everybody wants to be fit, but nobody wants to take the stairs. And this whole idea of be, do, have comes back to this idea of like, first, you've got to be the person that's achieving your goal, okay? Even if it's just in your own mind and in your own imagination, Okay, you got to start to see yourself as that person. But then you've got to start to do the things that that person does. You've got to start to show up as that person day in and day out, way before you can ever have the results that that person has, way before you can ever have that success. Okay? In the link below, I'm going to share a little clip of a video that's a conversation between two people, Trevor Moawad, who's a mindset coach from the States who works specifically with professional athletes, and Tom Bilyeu, who is the host of a podcast called Impact Theory. Okay, and the little clip is fascinating, and it shares a story that I'm not going to get into on this call, but it's very powerful. It's absolutely worth the watch. And one of the things that comes out of that is the line or the idea that behavior comes way before success. Your behavior comes way before your success. Okay? And going back to this whole idea of be, do, have, you've got to become the person, even if it's just in your own mind and in your own imagination. And you've got to start to do the things, okay, start to show up as that person way before you can ever have the success that you're looking for or want to achieve. Okay? And attached to this assignment, okay, is also, or attached to this exercise module, is also a little short assignment, okay? And it's going to help you to create a self-image or a new self-image to help you answer the question of who's the man that's accomplishing your specific goal, okay? And start to create that idea or that image in your mind, all right, of this new self-image. And I'll tell you, identity and your self-image is one of the strongest forces in human nature. And the reason I say that is because unconsciously we have a deep desire to remain consistent with who we believe ourselves to be. Okay? And if we want to create lasting change in our life, whether that's our fitness, whether that's our relationships, whether that's our finances, or a combination of all of that, what's really required is that we change our beliefs and our perceptions of ourselves and who we think we are, so that we're not relying on willpower, and so that we're not self-sabotaging and allowing ourselves to revert back to old patterns and old habits. Okay? And so feel free to watch the video and then complete this little exercise that's going to help you create a new self-image. And I'll see you in the next video. Right on.